Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mengs, and today I welcome you guys to another Fire Emblem character spotlight. After doing Igren, I was just really inspired to do another Binding Blade spotlight, and since she is now officially added to Heroes with some absolutely amazing art, I figured it was time to educate the fanbase about the hero of the Western Isles, Echidna.
I'm Echidna, leader of the Western Isles Resistance. Good to meet you.
Located west of the Alib mainland lies an archipelago consisting of 3 islands. The largest of the 3 islands, Fibernia, is located in the middle. The next smallest island, Caledonia, lies in the south, and the smallest of the 3, Dia, resides in the north. Together, they make up the Western Isles, a place rich in history connected to Alib's mythology. The legendary hero Durban the Berserker, wielder of the Armads, and one of the 8 heroes from the Scouring, settled on these islands and sealed his axe away in a dark cave filled with poisonous fumes. Like Durban, the people inhabiting the Western Isles are a strong, proud, and hardy folk. Often huge in size and physically strong, they make great warriors, builders, and laborers. But sadly, the islands are also plagued by pirates and bandits, despite being rich in resources. The precious ore and gemstones located deep in the mountains is what eventually drew the attention of Etruria, who sent armed forces to the isles to colonize them. While they initially tricked the native inhabitants of the islands by promising them well-paid work as miners, the reality soon proved to be much more grim, as anyone foolish enough to venture into the mines would find themselves enslaved, forced to work day and nights, often until they died from exhaustion. One of the most notorious mines, located in Mount Ekbram, on the largest island of Fibernia, was dubbed the Mine of Death, as it claimed the lives of countless innocents, and the wails of the tormented souls could be heard echoing throughout the mountains. Led by the cowardly and corrupt noble Accardo, who oversaw the colonization, the tyrannical Etrurian occupation forces became more and more aggressive with each day. They soon started to outright capture new slaves for their mining operations, and put entire cities under their boots. As a response to this atrocity, a resistance force rose up to challenge them, and this force was led by the hero of the Western Isles, Echidna. Going up against Etruria did not prove to be an easy task, however. Outnumbered and with significantly worse training, morale, and equipments, all the resistance forces could do was attempt to sabotage and harass the Etrurian occupants as much as possible, attempting to rescue miners whenever possible and be a thorn in their side. In the events of Binding Blade, the resistance forces of the Western Isles are on the brink of collapse when Roy's army lands on their shores. Originally sent on a mission by Etruria to eliminate some bandits in the area as an excuse to get them away from the mainland, Roy is outraged when he sees Etruria's treatment of the natives and decides to aid the resistance forces. As they make their way to Mount Ekbram to liberate the Mine of Death, Echidna is ousted by a civilian from a village and have her position revealed to the Etrurian forces. As Roy's army closes in, she is forced out of her hiding place and left with no choice but to fight for her life. Luckily, Laurum, a dancer who's also part of the resistance forces, convinces her to join Roy's army, and as a result, Echidna helps Roy drive the tyrannical Accardo back to Aquileia. Thankful for the help with liberating her people, Echidna joins Roy in his war against King Zaphiel of Bern. After the war, Echidna returns home to the Western Isles, hailed a hero for her efforts both in the liberation of the islands and for her contributions in the war against Bern. Thanks to her actions, the Western Isles was transformed into a new nation called the Western Union. Echidna is like a rock, stubborn, hard-headed, and resilient. Even when threatened with her life, she treats it as just another day at work, hardly breaking a sweat. She's a woman of few words, and we never see her get riled up or agitated. She's sturdy, and people look up to her for her calm but stern leadership. She commands authority without flaunting her strength, and catches people's eyes without being glamorous or flashy. Echidna has a dream of building a new village on the Western Isles. A village open to anyone who wants to live there. A place free of oppression and tyranny, where people who lost their homes during the war can settle down and live peacefully. Every single one of Echidna's supports revolves around this village, as she's trying to gather volunteers to help build it. With Geese, she wants him to use his ship to transport refugees to the village doorsteps. With Laurum, she wants her to dance and cheer people up while they work. With Gonzalez, she wants him to use his brute strength to help carry heavy things, and with Lot and Wade, she simply wants them to help out because they're natives to the Western Isles. Though with Wade, she insists that he is only allowed to come help if his sister doesn't need him more. While the village takes up a majority of the focus of Echidna's supports, there are some other things to point out in them. She shows a bit of humor in her support with Wade. When he declines her request to come help him, she just keeps insisting over and over again, annoying him greatly, and even teases him by calling him weak, saying he will die young if he keeps fighting as a mercenary. Though knowing Echidna, she might just be telling the truth. Wade isn't exactly the best character in the game. In both of her supports with Lot and Wade, a cave filled with poisonous spiders is brought up, which Lot and Wade sought out in their youth to confront their fears. Only by unlocking both of these supports do we learn that in these tales, one of the fighters is clearly lying, as both of them tells about the other being terrified. Lot seems like the honest one out of the two fighters, but he's also the more cautious one, as Wade is known for his reckless bravery, so it's very hard to know which one of them is telling the truth. Echidna's dark sense of humor is very apparent in her supports with Larum, where she makes fun of her cooking and even goes as far as wishing condolences upon Roy for wanting to try it out. Echidna's blunt and straightforward attitude really characterizes her. She doesn't mince words and she doesn't beat around the bush. She'll straight up tell people what she thinks about them without worrying about how they'll take it. And this is what makes her so respected and well liked as a leader. What you see is what you get.
Larum's cooking is best avoided. Even talking about it leaves a bad taste in my mouth.
According to a Japanese popularity poll, Echidna ranked as the 34th most popular character out of the 80 total characters in Binding Blade. In Greek mythology, Echidna is the name of a female monster residing in a cave, spawning other horrendous creatures. Her name's origin might also have been what inspired her supports with Lot and Wade, where they both talk about a cave filled with snakes. In the first Fire Emblem Heroes Choose Your Legends popularity poll, Echidna ranked as the 305th most popular character with 662 total votes. In the second poll, she ranked at number 319 with 670 votes. In the third poll, she ranked at number 252 with 868 votes.
Imagine it. A free village accepting of everyone. My dream is to make that a reality.
Echidna first shows up as a playable character in Chapter 11a, so in order to get her, you need to make sure you get the A routes. The Western Isles features a route split, which is decided in Chapter 9. In this chapter, there are two villages. The leftmost village gives you a killer bow, whereas the rightmost village gives you a restore staff. But visiting one will make the other close its gates, so you can only get one of these items. If you visit the left village, you will go to the A routes. If you visit the right village, you will go to the B route. If you visit neither, you'll also go to the A routes. The A route is generally considered a little more difficult than the B route, but also less tedious. In addition to Echidna, you will also get Larum the Dancer over Elfin the Barge, but they are basically the same unit, so this won't really make a difference. However, by going A route, you will not be able to recruit Bartra. While many people shit on Bartra as a unit in the Binding Blade, he's actually not terrible, as his bases are really good. But overall, Echidna is certainly the better character, as she has superior speed and much better weapon ranks. In the B route, Gonzalez also joins one chapter later, but 6 levels higher, though without any increased bases, which is nice if you're looking to early promote him, but otherwise just means he has less levels to grow and will also level slower. So for this reason, many people prefer the A routes. Chapter 11a has a ton of stuff going on in it. There are villages to save, green units to keep alive, and tons of enemies to deal with, and you'll be forced to split your army up if you want to get everything. Echidna will come out of the closed village located in the center of the map at the end of turn 8 and will immediately spawn 3 hostile fighters wielding hand axes around her. The big issue with this is that the enemy will get to move before her, so if you haven't cleared the area of threats, she might just die the moment she comes out. If you cleared out all the hostiles by turn 8, the 3 hand axe wielding fighters really shouldn't pose much of a threat against her unless they all hit their 30% hits, though I've rarely seen this occur. If anything, it is more likely that she'll get killed by any other stray units you've left alive in the vicinity, so speed is of the essence in this chapter. Also be aware that the 3 fighters are very liable to rush one of your units, such as Larum, if they are close, so mind their range and place any frail units far away from this village before turn 8 is over. Once you safely clear out the enemies though, move Larum in and have her talk to Echidna to recruit her, and you will get a very strong pre-promoted hero on your team. Echidna's bases are fantastic. With 18 speed, she will most likely be one of your fastest units, bar a promoted Rutger or Shanna, and with 19 skills she will have no issues landing hits. Her base 13 strength is a little on the low side for a promoted unit, but this shouldn't be a problem considering she nearly always doubles and can wield high might axes. Speaking of axes, Echidna's weapon ranks are a massively undervalued part of her utility. She comes with C rank in swords and B rank in axes, and that's really good considering that at this point, you probably don't have that many viable axe users on your team. Marcus and Jarrett are starting to fall off at this point, and Lot and Wade aren't very commonly used, though Lot is secretly the best character in the game if you really promote him. Gonzalez and Geese aren't exactly fantastic units either, and even an early promoted Deke is certainly not going to have anywhere near B rank in axes. While Echidna is great at wielding axes, you really should take that cumbersome steel axe off her immediately after she joins, as it slows her down by 6 points, which turns her from a fast unit into a very average one. Echidna gets a lot of crap for her 9 constitution, which is a little on the low side for a promoted axe wielder, but steel axes are horrendous anyway and really shouldn't be used. She's much better suited to wielding an iron or killer axe, which only slows her down by 2 points, while silver and hand axes only slows her down by 3. Thanks to her insanely high base speed of 18, she has no difficulties doubling even when not fighting at full speed. Newer players have a tendency to treat even small penalties like a complete death sentence. It's as if a character not fighting at full speed makes them immediately bad, but this isn't the case. Echidna is simply so fast, she doesn't give a damn if she wields something slightly heavy. While hand axes are pretty shit in Binding Blade, 1-2 range is never a bad thing, and considering you'll be going up against a lot of javelin wielding cavaliers, Echidna is great at clearing them out, though she often won't kill them in a single round of combat unless she crits. The killer axe also deserves a special mention. It's relatively light, very accurate, and combined with her ridiculous 19 base skill, her crit rate will be very high. She's also a great candidate for wielding the Armads early on, which you will obtain only a few chapters later, though it will take her 100 weapon experience to get to S rank, which may be a while. The +5 defense boost the Armads gives turns Echidna into a very solid frontline tank, and you should definitely use it to get out of a tight spot. Just be careful not to break it, as it will cost you the good ending. Echidna is also a really good candidate for a stat booster or two. While the selling point of pre-promotes is that they shouldn't have to rely on these to perform, and Echidna does just fine without them, an energy ring does a lot for her offense, as she is one of the fastest characters in the game at base, meaning she will very often double, thus the 2 extra points of strength often translates into 4 points of damage. While her defenses are not that great at base, an Angelic Robe or Draco Shield will go a long way to patching that up. Echidna is also a very good candidate for the body ring, as it allows her to use iron and killer axes completely unimpeded. While it may be more tempting to give stat boosters to one of your favorite units that you've trained from the start, Echidna can go from a solid unit to a very impressive one if she gets a little boost in one of these areas. While Binding Blade supports are horrendously slow to build, they can be of good help if you are willing to take advantage of them. Echidna's list of supports is sadly pretty limited, as Wade and Lot aren't really characters that are frequently used, and Geese is also pretty overlooked, but her support with Gonzalez deserves at least a special mention, as her Ice Affinity gives him the one thing he needs to perform, and that is accuracy. While the Ice Affinity is normally one of the least popular ones due to its mostly defensive bonuses, it actually complements Echidna pretty well, patching up her weak areas, which is her low defense, as well as giving her some crit avoid, which helps out her low base luck. The extra accuracy is also nice for axes, even though her base skill is already pretty high. Her support with Larum is pretty decent, as Thunder plus Ice provides very good bonuses in all these areas, though keeping your Dancer chained to Echidna might not always be what you want. Being a pre-promoted unit in Binding Blade, Echidna's growth rates are pretty low, and you'll rarely see her grow more than a couple of stats with each level, so don't expect her to grow like a weed. She won't. However, her bases are so good, they'll carry her a long way, even on hard mode. You'll likely start to see her drop off during the endgame, and since she doesn't have the utility of a mount or the ability to help out with staves, she'll probably not see much use after the mid-game. But that doesn't mean you should feel bad about investing a little in her to get through some of the harder parts of the game, such as Arcadia, retaking the Etrurian capital, or Sakai/Ilia. Overall, Echidna is a character that is often overlooked by newer players who obsess about her subpar growth rates and her low constitution stat like they are the only things that matter, neglecting the fact that her offensive stats are insanely good for her join time, and that she's one of the first really good axe users you get in that game. If you're willing to give her a chance, I'm sure she won't disappoint, and even if you aren't a big fan of pre-promotes, you must surely admit that those female hero animations look pretty damn badass. While Echidna is one of my favorite characters in Binding Blade, I will admit that I do not find her particularly exciting. Literally every single one of her 5 supports are centered around the village she wants to build, though a few of them divulge us a little further into other topics. Echidna is a good example of a character that is really easy to like, but is not particularly fascinating or exciting to read up on. I don't really want to call her a bad character, but it's not like there's a lot to talk about here. I'll therefore give her a rather generic rating of 3 out of 5 stars. Sorry Echidna fans, don't worry, she'll get her time to shine elsewhere. Echidna's design is without a question what makes her so insanely popular in the Fire Emblem fandom. Being popular as a female character in Fire Emblem isn't exactly hard. You just show off some thighs, be cute and wear something sexy, and you'll most likely earn yourself a spot in most players' hearts. Echidna does neither of these and is still remembered as one of the coolest female designs in the franchise. Even people who despise pre-promotes will usually admit that they find Echidna pretty cool. I hate to use the terminology strong and sexy because I feel like it's a cliche that is overused in today's modern gaming media, but holy hell does Echidna fit the description well. She's rough and jagged, but still retains an aura of elegance and grace. Her outfit also deserves a special mention, it is so insanely cool looking. Her hair, combined with her stylish headband, makes her look incredibly sharp, easily one of the best female designs in Fire Emblem to this day. 5 out of 5 stars.
That's so!
Rating Echidna's utility is honestly very tricky. She's certainly a good unit, but she's not one of those characters that will carry your game on her shoulders. Pre-promotes in Binding Blade are generally pretty strong and useful right off the bat, but they don't dominate the game like a trained Rutger, Deke, Shanna, Alan, or Lance. And compared to some of the pre-promotes in the later games, they just don't seem that good. However, relative to the power level of most other units in Binding Blade, Echidna is fantastic. Aside from Marcus and Percival, I'd probably rate her as one of the best pre-promotes in the game. She doesn't join until the mid-game, but I still think she's a great unit that can help you out during a portion of the game which is normally pretty tricky, especially if you are a new player. You should give her a chance. 4 out of 5 stars.
Been waiting for this.
Thank you so much for watching this Fire Emblem character spotlight. If you enjoyed it, consider helping it out with a like, and let me know who you want to see me spotlight in the future by leaving a comment below. And if you want to help the channel out, I would really appreciate it if you became a member or supported me on Patreon, though that is completely optional. If you click the playlist in front of you, you can also check out the previous spotlights I've done. Until next time, my name is Mengs, and I thank you for watching. Bye bye.